Good to see you as always, and really excited today because we have a megastar has graced us with his presence. I'm Riccoh Player, and I'm joined with my partner in crime, Marine veteran, firefighter, and serial entrepreneur Zach Green. Zach, how are you doing today?
I got to tell you, Riccoh, I am more excited right now than I've been in the history of our podcast because I'm getting a chance to talk to one of my childhood heroes, a true legend, and someone that I really have admired since a very, very young age. And that's the man and the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Reggie Williams. So, Reggie, thanks for joining us today, sir.
Zach, I'm really appreciative of you and Riccoh inviting me onto your show. Obviously, this is a great time to be a Cincinnati Bengal fan. Who day. You know, want to wish them the best as they venture out to LA to take on the Rams.
To beat the Rams.
You know, that's the only reason I'm not going to the game. You know, I went to the Thursday night game in Cincinnati. The team invited the entire 1981 Super Bowl team back. It also coincided with their first inaugural Ring of Honor induction for Kenny Anderson and for Ken Riley, my good friend Ken Riley, may he rest in peace, and for head coach Paul Brown and our lone Hall of Famer Anthony Munoz were all there. But it was at that particular game that I expressed to our season ticket holders that this could be the year. And you just have to believe. And I believed. And so as I came back, I watched every ensuing game from the same place in front of my TV, in the same seat in my couch. I don't yell at the TV. I watch it like this, you know, very pensively. And the only reason I'm gonna let superstition override, you know, the joy of going to the Super Bowl is I remember on the night of Super Bowl 23 when we had just lost in the last moments to the San Francisco 49ers. My older brother, Greg, he came up to me in the post-game dinner and, you know, was crying and sort of said, I shouldn't have come to the game. Every time I come to the game, you guys lose. And I thought about that. I said, man, you shouldn't have come to the game. You know? And you know, if I'd known that, you know, as much as I love you, you would have stayed at home. So in this case, I'm doing what I would expect a player to say to me. Man, you watched all our games, you know, and every game, the last three at least, went down to the very last play. And you're going to, you know, not, you know, do your job in terms of, you know, being an old school Bengal guy and just, you know, watch the game from where we've been winning. So anyway, that's my logic and I'm sticking with it.
Reggie, do not get up from that seat when the game starts, whatever you do.
There you go. A fellow fan understands.
That's right. I remember back when you were playing, you gave an interview to Channel 5. That was one of the things you were talking about is everybody in the locker room has a different superstition and, you know, you get dressed a certain way, you tie your laces a certain way, and you don't mess with that stuff. So glad to hear that true.
You know, and lessons of resiliency, you know, that's the one aspect about, you know, superstition and resiliency is it can give you peace of mind. Okay. You've done all that you can do as a fan, you know, as an observer. Now, when you know, when I play, there's no way that, you know, I would believe that I'm going to play better if someone in the stands is wearing, you know, a certain something they've worn in every single game. But if I play well, I'm giving it all the credit, okay, because of their belief. Okay, they're believing in it. And if they're believing it and I'm the beneficiary of it, then I want to encourage it.
I hear you. Well, that's fantastic. Well, let me give our listeners a little bit of background. If you guys don't know who Reggie Williams is, the first thing is Reggie Williams was my childhood neighbor. He lived about 3 or 4 houses away from me as the crow flies. And I remember my younger brother would always go over there. And the worst time to mess with a professional football player is on a Sunday after the game. And every time there'd be a Sunday game, we'd come out, We knock on his door, and I remember he had a stack of 5x7s by that front door, and you had a Leroy Neiman painting right next to it on the left that had the picture of you with your number right up there. And about the second or third time, he's like, guys, I need my time. Give me a chance, because we want him to go out and play ball with us after a Sunday game, and it never worked out. But just a great guy. And I remember down the couple doors down from you was Ken Wood, who was the strength and conditioning coach. And I remember my bike got messed up, and Ken came out and fixed my chain on my bike, and thought that was pretty cool to have a guy like him making sure my bike was working. But
well, Kim is a great guy. Kim
crazy guy, but a great guy.
Yes.
So Reggie,
go ahead.
As I'm listening to you two old buddies reminisce, I can't help but stop the love fest temporarily and ask, in your playing days, with a warrior mentality, a warrior voice, a warrior mindset, what was your battle rhythm, or what prepared you mentally for a game, especially a big game?
No, you want to approach every game the same. All games are big games. Any game you play in, you can get hurt. And so you approach it, mentally the same way. My approach as a professional athlete was greatly influenced by all of the adversity I faced earlier. I mean, I was born in Flint, Michigan. I was born hearing impaired. I used to go to Michigan School for the Deaf because if you don't hear sounds, it's impossible for you to repeat those sounds. So I developed a speech impediment. I did everything my parents asked of me to do to be prepared to go to the University of Michigan. That's where I wanted to go. And I did everything academically in the classrooms. And by the time I was a senior, I had earned a full academic ride to University of Michigan. And Bo Schimbeckler came to my high school and introduced himself to me with my head coach, Dar Christensen, and said, if you decide to come to the University of Michigan, do me a favor, don't come out for my football team. He totally crushed me. And I was only left with, I had only applied to 3 schools. I had applied to the University of Michigan, Albion College, which was a Division III school, and Dartmouth College. And Dartmouth College knew about me because they had been recruiting another player who was a senior who decided, his name was Jeff Natchez, and he ended up going into the Detroit Tigers farm system. And so I had to tell my father that my hero, Bo Schimbeckler, just crushed my dream. And my father said, forget about Bo. I'll get an extra job and I will pay whatever it costs extra for you to go to Dartmouth College. And so when I went to Dartmouth College, I went there with a chip on my shoulder, had something to prove. And in those 4 years, I played well enough to become the only African-American All-American in the Ivy League since the Ivy League was formed in 1954. And then when I went to the Hula Bowl, the defensive coordinator for the East team that I was playing for was a guy named George Hill. And he was the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. And he didn't have to tell me that I wasn't good enough because he benched me before I got there. I was the only All-American linebacker, and I'm the one on the bench. He only played me 1 play in that game and then took me off the field and basically destroyed my confidence. And when I flew home and I had to decide whether I was going to go home to Flint or continue on to New York City, I had a layover in Cleveland. And when I was sitting there in tears because, all my confidence had been shattered, all of a sudden down the airport hallways walks Muhammad Ali, my hero. And I said, wow, I got to go introduce myself to Ali. And so I went over to him, introduced myself to him, told him what my situation is. And he's the one that encouraged me, said, you have to believe in your dreams. You become a hero when you believe in yourself. And that just fortified me. I said, because I had much, much more admiration for Muhammad Ali than I did for Bo Schembechler and George Hill. And so when I went to Cincinnati, I was determined to prove to everybody that I deserved to be there. And in my third game, my rookie year, the player in front of me got injured. And his name was Ron Pritchard. And that gave me a chance to get on the field. And once I got in the field, I started for the next 14 years. And so every game, you know, I never forgot the beginning, the lack of confidence in me, the disrespect shown to me by authoritative figures that I once admired. So you have to really put your faith in your own belief in yourself. And that's what really drove me in every game. In the Super Bowl 23, I really count that as my best game of my career. In large part, not only did I lead the Bengals in tackles, I led all players in tackles. I had a sack on Joe Montana. I had a pressure on Joe Montana. But it created a nightmare situation when our defensive coordinator, Dick LeBeau, decided to change the defense and put in a prevent defense for the last 5 plays. And those 5 plays put me on the sideline. And that was a nightmare to watch Joe Montana just march down our field and stick the ball into Taylor's arms, and we lost the game. So big games and small games, they all hurt the same, you know, because you know that, you know, it's in the history books. There's nothing you can do to change a single play. You just have to be prepared for, you know, the next opportunity. That's why after Super Bowl 23, I couldn't retire then. That was not the time to give it up, and that's why I played one more year. I was a city councilman when I started in Super Bowl 23. That is something that has never been attempted by any other player in NFL football history and in the history of the Super Bowl. I also, in Super Bowl 2016, another unique situation is that's the only time in the 55 and now 56 games of the Super Bowl that a player played against one of his high school teammates. The starting running back for the San Francisco 49ers on the 1981 team was a guy named Ricky Payton. And he was our running back for Flint Southwestern High School. And I was the linebacker on Flint Southwestern High School coach. So those things sort of drive your intensity when you're playing, you know, such a competitive sport as NFL football.
Well, Reggie, thanks for sharing that. There's a great quote by Walter Baggio, and he says something to the effect of, one of the greatest joys in life is doing things other people tell you that you couldn't do. And I think with a common thread we find from all the warriors that we interview is this thread of some type of challenge or resistance and somebody telling them you're not good enough. And instead of that crushing you, you use that as a fire to burn through you and to be able to accomplish all those incredible things you did, ranging from, you know, multiple Super Bowls, co-sportsman of the year on Sports Illustrated. And I know one of your proudest accomplishments being the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. Would you mind talking a little bit about the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award and how that's kind of given out? Because that's a really unique honor to have in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm very proud to be a Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. Obviously, the name was changed to Walter Payton when he passed away, after he passed away. I played against Walter. He was a great, great competitor. You know, I will say that, you know, as far as what I remember, I've looked at the film, you know, they beat us pretty handedly, the Chicago Bears, in 1986. But we played up there in Chicago once, and I was able to avoid one of his blocks to sack their quarterback. So, you know, he was just a tremendous runner and a great blocker. But the thing that happened was during the 1981 season, I had another breakout season. I was tied for the lead in tackles with Jim LeClaire. I led the team in sacks. I had 11, which was 2 more than Lawrence Taylor, who not only made the NFC Pro Bowl, but was Rookie of the Year. And the first time a linebacker had ever gotten a double digits in sacks. I also had 4 interceptions. I had 4 forced fumbles and 3 recovered fumbles, and didn't make the Pro Bowl. No one in our defense made the Pro Bowl. And I was obviously, in my opinion, snubbed. You know, it's like what Bo Schembechler and George Hill had believed in my capabilities. And so I just redoubled everything that was really important to me, and that was kids in Cincinnati. And so I started really joining almost every single community organization that I enjoy and love, like the Cincinnati Speech and Hearing Center. I supported St. Rita School for the Deaf. I supported the United Way, Big Brothers Big Sisters, the local police, charities. And over the course of that, I was involved in so many activities that when I was in probably the Reggie Williams Scholarship Fund, which was awarded to students in the public high schools and every single public high school in the city of Cincinnati. And so that's what led to Neil Bortz saying that he would resign from city council so that he could pursue some real estate opportunities in Over the Rhine. And obviously Over Rhine is wonderfully rebuilt these days, but that's when he appointed me to be on the Cincinnati City Council. All of that were encapsulated in the ideas of what the NFL Man of the Year trophy is supposed to be: your contributions to your community, your desire to leave the city that you played for a better place because you did go there and play. The Reggie Williams Award at Dartmouth College, that's exactly what it's awarded for. You know, it's awarded to the player and the team that through their words and deeds have made Dartmouth College a better place. And so in that respect, I would like to believe that, you know, the current 3 Walter Payton NFL Men of the Year for the Cincinnati Bengals, Kenny Anderson, myself, and Anthony Munoz, all did try to leave Cincinnati as a better place than it was when we arrived. Boomer Esiason is also a Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, but he was appointed by the New York, when he was with the New York Jets. But we could consider him still, you know, one of the NFL Man of the Year that Cincinnati Bengal fans can be very proud of.
Outstanding, Reggie. Two quick questions. One will make sense at the end of the program of the podcast. So you meeting Muhammad Ali, what year was that roughly?
That was 1976. That was the year I was getting drafted. Yep, 1976. He was in Cleveland for a press conference for a fight he would have later that year.
Okay, fair enough. And like I said, I'll get back to that near the end of the podcast. But we've been talking football, all good. Super excited. I'm not a Cincinnati fan. Don't hold it against me. I am a Buckeye. I was born and raised in Ohio, but we won't talk about my team because this is a pleasant podcast. Let's go to a little bit heavier issue and talk about, you know, managing all those surgeries. 28 knee surgeries, Reggie?
Yeah, I've had quite a bit of time underneath the scalpel. You know, a big part of my situation was I was born bow-legged. And once I had so much damage in my right knee from 3 operations that I needed to get a knee replacement. And in order to do that, because I was bow-legged, I had to get it bilateral, both knees operated, because you can't have one curved leg and one straight leg. And just a month or 2 after the operation, all of a sudden I started getting a pain in my tooth from an old root canal that had they had used silver implants. That used to be the end thing. And then they come to find out that after about 25 years, the silver implants will get fallow and get infected. And that's what happened. And so the infection in my tooth migrated to the scar tissue that I was still breaking in my right knee. My left knee had gotten back to full flexibility, but my right knee still needed about 3 or 4 degrees more, and that's why I was still tearing scar tissue, and that's why it got infected. And that I developed osteomyelitis, which is an infection of the bone. And during the course of them curing the osteomyelitis, it had successfully eaten away 3 inches of my femur. And so I have, my right leg is 3 inches shorter than my left leg. I'm 6'1" on my left leg and 5'9.5" on my right leg.
Wow.
And in order to close the wound, they had to do a double gastroc flap. Your gastrocs are your calf muscles. And you can imagine an infection that eats away 3 inches of bone. It's going to eat away a lot of your flesh as well. And so that's why they had to do the double gastroc flap to close the hole so that I could rehab and learn to walk. And the osteomyelitis came back after about 10 years, and that resulted in my last knee replacement. In the last knee replacement, they opted not to even put any more titanium into the knee. They just left in the concrete. Well, basically, with the recognition that, titanium will conduct the cells that cause osteomyelitis, whereas concrete will not. But basically, my right leg doesn't move. And so, that's another reason, that if I'm gonna watch the game, I want to do it comfortably. The one thing that would really be concerning is sitting in the stadium and having people step over my leg if I can get my leg in the seat. But I've learned to live with it. I've learned to find the good in it. And what little good there is in it, I mean, it is a topic of conversation with kids. Kids are always fascinated when they see something they haven't seen before. And no one has seen anything that looks like my knee.
Okay.
So Reggie, let's unpack that a little bit here, because we were so affected by your book, Resilience. That's such a big part in my book, Warrior Entrepreneur. It's part of Colonel Player's book on Off the Record is Resilience. And the warrior attitude is, if something bad happens to it, we're going to make you stronger, develop that rhino skin. Iron sharpens iron, where the non-warrior is going to use that as a way to feel sorry for themselves. Can you share with us how this horrible situation has made you a better man, a better person, and better to accomplish your life goals that you have?
Well, I'll give you another story relative that will, I think, tell the story, and it will also give you, insight in terms of what do you believe? When do you find out that what you believe when you're facing adversity is really going to be beneficial? And so in 2016, I think that was on New Year's Eve, I think that's when Michigan State were in the NCAA Final Four. I was in Punta Gorda, and when the game started, all of a sudden my arm started moving on its own. And I was like, what is this? And the manager of the restaurant came over and said, man, you're having a stroke. And I was having a stroke. And so he said, he's gonna drive me to the hospital, which is about 10, 15 minutes away, in my own car. So when I get out of the hospital, I'll have a way home. But by the time we did that 10, 15 minute drive, by the time I got to the hospital, I could no longer speak. Everything I said was gibberish. And I also could not use my right arm and my right leg. And it was extremely frustrating. And fortunately, because he had driven me to the hospital, he was able to tell the doctors when the stroke had started so that it was within the time frame where you can get a clot buster. And so they gave me the clot buster, and now I'm waiting for it to be a miracle cure. And the hospital was so crowded that they didn't even have a room for me. So they had a makeshift bed with curtains around it just outside the emergency room. And when I woke up the next morning, I was able to use my right arm and my right leg, but I still couldn't speak. I couldn't give my son's phone number. I couldn't give my own social security number. And it was so frustrating. It was like being trapped, you know, in someone else's body, and your inability to communicate was so frustrating. And then all of a sudden, what popped into my mind was Invictus by William Ernest Henley. And I just started saying it. And, you know, and I'm gonna recite it for you. You know, here's a moment of adversity. You can't speak, but the one thing that you think of is out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeoning of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Outstanding.
Well, I don't know how we can top that, Reggie. This has just been absolutely fantastic. I know our listeners are so excited. We hope they have the opportunity. Colonel Player is still active as the commanding officer of the headquarters and support battalion at Paris Island. If you ever can make your way up here, just up the road a little bit to South Carolina, we would be deeply honored to host you for a graduation and see our newest Marines graduate. I know you'd be very inspirational to the Colonel's men, and we'd love to have you if your travels ever get up here in the next few months.
I'll look forward to taking you up on that offer, hopefully. Okay, Zach, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So Reggie, we finish every one of our podcasts with a dedication to a fallen hero. And Colonel Player is going to go ahead and dedicate this show for us as we wrap up here.
And so as we wrap up, Reggie, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I asked about Muhammad Ali because as fate would have it, Muhammad Ali ties into my dedication. Not that he was a Marine, but it will make sense here in a moment. You met in around 1976.
Yes. 1976. And we stayed friends for the rest of my life. You know, I had a chance to name a street after him when I was the executive at Walt Disney World.
Okay.
And built the largest youth sports complex in the world, which is now called ESPN Wide World of Sports. It was Disney's Wide World of Sports. I had a chance to host him there, him and his wife, Lonnie. So we remained friends until his unfortunate demise. And, you know, I'm just blessed that, you know, there are a number of people like Muhammad Ali in our world.
Well, you will appreciate this. So bear with me, please. Former heavyweight boxing champion and Olympic gold medalist Leon Spinks joined the Marines as a pathway out of poverty, and the core sports program made him a champion. Spinks died on this date, 5 February 2021, at the age of 67. Born in St. Louis, Missouri, he was the oldest of 7 children. Beset by asthma as a child, he started boxing at age 13 at the city's 12th and Park Center as part of a program to take kids off the streets. He dropped out of high school to join the Marine Corps in 1973. and won the Amateur Athletic Union's Amateur Lightweight Boxing Championship for 3 consecutive years from 74 to 76. While a Marine, Spinks was stationed at Camp Lejeune and became a well-known character around Jacksonville, North Carolina. Spinks turned pro after leaving the Corps in 76. He had only 7 professional bouts under his belt when he was booked to fight heavyweight champion Muhammad Ali and made history February 15, 1978. He beat Ali on a 15-round split decision in Vegas. Spinks won the world championship title in his 8th professional fight, the shortest time in history. The aging Ali had expected an easy fight, but he was outboxed by Spinks, who did not tire throughout the bout. Spinks' last battle was a fight against prostate cancer that spread to his bladder. Hospitalized in December 2019, the fighter survived a year during the worst pandemic of this century before passing away at his home in Henderson, Nevada. Our dedication is to that warrior, Spinks. And Zach, my partner, how do we conclude every episode?
Semper Fidelis.
Semper Fidelis.
Hurrah.